Now joined via Zoom by Professor Narnia Bohler-Muller, Developmental Capable and Ethical State Division Head at the Human Sciences Research Council. Very good afternoon to you. Prof, thank you for your time with us here on the SABC.
Good afternoon. It's good to be with you. I'm still at the venue. The colloquium is still continuing, but it's very exciting to be with you online.
So let's unpack what's transpired as the day has progressed. It's been almost a year later, and following what happened with the New Lane case, we're questioning whether we're ever going to see someone be held accountable for what's transpired there. There's been a lack of implementation since the handing over the final installment of state capture report. Elections are looming. Walk us through what's being unearthed on that front.
Well, you stopped the Chief Justice's speech that you were showing earlier at a time when he said, "Who will protect the people?" And the answer, actually, his answer was, "The people must protect themselves." So an active citizenry is going to make a big difference in future, I believe. And that was a message of hope, really. That we shouldn't only rely on leaders and government and politicians to look after us. We need to rely on ourselves and our communities. Of course, one needs to remember that the commission itself is not able to prosecute. So the commission did its job. It did its job well. It unearthed a whole lot of information through proper investigations. And it was a success. It did what it was supposed to do. Now it is for the implementation stage, which has nothing to do with the commission. The implementation stage must be dealt with by law enforcement agencies. And so if there is a lack of implementation, or if the implementation is too slow, I don't think that one can actually blame the commission for that happening. We have everything in those reports to arrest people, and we should start doing so.
Prof Narnia, you speak about active citizenry and law enforcement playing their role as well. Let me bring Parliament into the picture, because there were also concerns raised about their role in state capture. Can you speak to the concerns that were raised over the lack of measures put in place by Parliament to prevent another state capture, perhaps as we edge closer to elections?
Yes, there are issues with implementation, and throughout the state capture years, I think there were gatekeepers in Parliament, particularly from the majority party, who were preventing moving forward. And one of the things was really that if you're a strong majority in Parliament and you choose to vote as a bloc, you're going to get every decision you don't want stopped, or every decision you want taken through. And so one of the recommendations has actually been to change the electoral system in South Africa. But that's not something that can happen overnight. There are a lot of people who are arguing that we should have a constituency-based system, so that members of Parliament are responsible to their constituencies and not necessarily to their political parties. But it's a very different system from the one that we have now. But it is one of the issues that has been raised as a possible solution, because what was the problem initially is that parliamentarians were voting en bloc. They were deciding en bloc to protect certain persons who were involved in state capture, and that has to stop. Parliament has drawn up an implementation plan on what to do with the outcomes of the Zondo Commission, and I know that the President's addressed Parliament about this, but I have no idea how far it's come.
You've spoken about active citizenry, and I want to go back to that point. Former chairperson of the State Capture Commission and Chief Justice Raymond Zondo obviously says that state captures place the country's democracy at risk. What role can ordinary South Africans then at this point play to safeguard our democracy?
Well, there's one thing that people can do, but it's really extremely courageous and brave, and that is to whistleblow. We spoke quite a bit about whistleblowing this morning, and most South Africans are very much in favor of the protection of whistleblowers, and we need to put those protective measures in place. And this would be whistleblowing from, from all the way from the bottom of a company to cabinet. So that is one way of doing things, is providing people with easy mechanisms to report corruption and also then to protect them. That's very important. We have a couple of the whistleblowers who spoke to the Zondo Commission here today. And we do know it's a risk, though, so protecting is important. But that's not the only thing. I think just speaking out against bad behavior, against dishonesty, not allowing our society to be trampled upon and misused by criminals and by the corrupt. So it's got a lot to do with awareness. It's got a lot to do with education. And we need to take it into our own hands to make sure that we remain alert, and civil society, as well as non-governmental organizations, keep an eye on things and whatever happens or begins to happen in the bud.
Let me wrap up the conversation just very quickly based on your reflections, perhaps also the dynamics unfolding in the country. What are your thoughts on the state of democracy in South Africa?
The state of democracy across the world is not good. Our research has shown over the past 10 years or so that trust in democracy has dropped to very low levels in the cities, 30%. But this is happening across the world, and one wonders, what it is that is causing this phenomenon. And perhaps it's because of the fact that people want food on their tables, and they feel that maybe democracy is not delivering that to them. And we need to correct those kinds of perceptions. One doesn't need an authoritarian state in order to look after the basic needs and the basic services necessary for people to live well. So democracy needs to start delivering. It's not democracy that's at fault. I think it's the people who don't know how to exercise democracy and how to lead in an ethical and way with integrity. So it is a problem across the world. You've seen the emergence of authoritarianism. Fortunately, that's changed now in Brazil with the re-election of Lula. But there are a lot of big men throughout the world who are determining or trying to determine our future, and we need to stop that.
Prof, thank you for your time with us here on the SABC and for weighing in as that colloquium, of course, gets underway. Professor Narnia Bohler-Muller